6 years is a long time to love someone in the shadows. It's long enough for guilt to fade into a habit, and for secrets to start feeling like the truth. For Amelia, time wasn't measured in days or months, but in moments. The way his voice deepened when he was tired, the scent of his cologne on her sheets, the gentle squeeze of his hand before he left each morning. At 28, Daniel was everything she'd ever dreamed of: intelligent, attentive, ambitious. But he was also divided. Half of him belonged to a life he couldn't fully leave, and half belonged to her, the woman who waited for a promise to take shape. They built a world together in the cracks of his real one. Dinner dates in small Italian restaurants far from his neighborhood, trips upstate where no one knew them, afternoons in her apartment, cooking together like a normal couple until his phone buzzed and reality intruded. "Don't answer," she'd plead, already knowing he would. "I have to," he'd say, his eyes filled with apology. He'd step out, take the call, then return with a soft kiss that always made her forgive him. Love, Amelia learned, could be both tender and cruel. By the 4th year, Daniel's marriage was little more than a shell. He and his wife, Lauren, were living separately now, officially under the guise of needing space. He told Amelia it was temporary, that divorce papers were being discussed. For the first time, she let herself imagine a future that wasn't hidden. She imagined moving in together, hosting dinners, introducing him to her friends as hers, not just as a friend from work. He began talking about marriage more openly then, as if testing the idea out. "I can see you in white," he told her one night, his head resting in her lap. "Somewhere by the ocean, small ceremony. Just us, maybe a few close friends." Her chest had filled with warmth. "You'd really do that?" He smiled, his eyes half closed. "Of course, would. You've waited long enough, haven't you?" Amelia didn't answer because waiting had become her life's rhythm. There were happy times too. He came to her first art show and stood quietly in the back, his eyes gleaming with pride. When she looked at him, it was as if the entire city just faded away. "You're brilliant," he whispered when he found her after the event. "Someday, the world will know it and I'll be the man standing beside you." But that someday never seemed to arrive. There were always delays, complications, excuses. Lauren wasn't ready. Her family would be devastated. The divorce process was more complex than he expected. Amelia swallowed every reason like bitter medicine, telling herself it was necessary. Still, cracks began to form in the quiet places of her heart. Sometimes, she'd see couples walking hand in hand in Central Park and feel an ache so deep it frightened her. It wasn't jealousy, exactly, just a profound longing to exist without hiding. At night, when Daniel left, she'd stand by her window and watch his taillights disappear, wondering if love was supposed to feel this lonely. In their 5th year, everything seemed to shift. Daniel got a major promotion, more meetings, more travel, more distance. He assured her it was temporary, that this promotion meant stability for their future. But with every success, he seemed to grow further away. His calls came later, his visits became shorter. "You're distracted," she told him one night, after he'd spent most of dinner scrolling through his emails. "I'm just busy," he replied, not even looking up. "You know this is for us, right?" She nodded, but the words didn't land like they used to. When he finally noticed her silence, he reached across the table and took her hand. "Hey, don't look at me like that. You're my heart, Amelia. You know that." She smiled weakly, trying desperately to believe him. The following spring, he told her he was finally filing for divorce. He showed her documents on his phone, brief glimpses of legal emails. She didn't read them, she just wanted to believe. They began talking about engagement rings, even wedding dates. He promised her a summer ceremony the following year. She cried that night, not from sadness, but from the sheer relief of having her waiting finally justified. For 6 years, she had been his secret, and now, she would finally be his truth. She told her best friend, Clara, in a whisper over wine. "He's leaving her. It's happening." Clara hesitated. "After 6 years, Amelia, are you sure? You've built your whole life around this man. Don't lose yourself in his promise." But Amelia just smiled, radiant. "You don't understand. He's different. He's finally choosing me." That year, everything felt lighter. Daniel met her mother under the guise of being a colleague. He spent Christmas Eve at her place, cooking dinner, laughing as they danced barefoot in her kitchen. It was the closest thing to normal they'd ever had. When midnight came, he kissed her and whispered, "Next year, you'll be my wife." She believed him with her whole heart. But belief, she would soon learn, is a fragile thing. In May, Daniel began to pull away again. It was subtle at first. Missed calls, unanswered texts, last-minute cancellations. "I'm swamped," he'd say. "You know how work gets." But his absences started to stretch longer. The man who once couldn't go a day without hearing her voice was suddenly hard to reach. Her intuition started whispering things she didn't want to hear. One night, she called him, and a woman's voice answered, warm, calm, and unfamiliar. "Oh, Daniel's not available right now," she said politely. "Can I take a message?" The air drained from Amelia's lungs. "Who is this?" There was a pause. Then softly, "Lauren." For the first time in 6 years, Amelia felt the crushing weight of the truth she had so carefully ignored. When Daniel finally called back hours later, she couldn't breathe through her tears. "You told me it was over," she said, her voice breaking. "It is," he insisted. "That was a mistake. She's been sick, Amelia. I had to check on her." "Sick?" she choked out. "After all these years, you're still choosing her." "I'm not," he said, but even he didn't sound convinced. And for the first time since their very first kiss, she didn't believe him. Still, she couldn't let go. Not yet. Because a love that consumes you doesn't just disappear, it fades slowly, painfully, piece by piece. By the end of the 6th year, the wedding talk stopped. The promises quieted, and Amelia began to see the truth not in his words, but in his silences. He was never hers to keep. But admitting that would mean admitting that 6 years of her life, 6 years of hope, sacrifice, and faith were built entirely on borrowed love. And she wasn't ready to face that. Not yet.